All right, hey everybody, my name's Taylor Malajati. So, can a person be mentally ill and happy? The pursuit of happiness has long been thought of as a universal experience, but happiness and mental illness have oftentimes been seen as mutually exclusive, sometimes even as two sides of a scale. But is there really no hope for those with mental illness to be happy? So what is happiness? Webster's dictionary defines happiness as a state of well-being and contentment, or a pleasurable or satisfying experience. But what does that really mean? Happiness has been described as an emotional, physical, or spiritual feeling, and for the number of people that are asked, the same number of definitions will emerge. There is no one definition of happiness, but most people say they know it when they feel it. Many nations define mental illness differently than the US, but for the sake of clarity in my research, I use the definition that a mental illness is a disorder that can be categorized and diagnosed using the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM, which is a text written and evaluated by hundreds of psychiatric professionals in the American Psychiatric Association. 18.5%, or 1 in 5 adults in the US, experiences mental illness in a given year. 1 in 25 adults in the US, or 4%, experiences a serious mental illness that substantially interferes with or limits one or more major life activity. And these are just the reported numbers. Many individuals are fearful of seeking help because mental illness is so stigmatized in our society. Those who have certain diagnoses are defined by them, making it almost impossible to break out of the one idea people have of who they are. Media representation of those with mental illness is full of descriptors such as crazy or insane, which have highly negative connotations and can make people feel like there is no hope for them to have a normal or happy life. In the past, performing studies about happiness on subjects with mental illness was unheard of, but the field of positive psychology has been gaining popularity in more recent years. One of the main ideas behind the growing field is that the psychological community needs to step away from the idea that those with diagnosed mental illnesses should be defined by their pathology. Patients should be seen as individuals who have the potential for happy lives. Happiness, I think, is being at peace with yourself. Being happy is being thankful for a peaceful and quiet life. I think happiness, for me, is actually being in touch with humane people who I can connect with, people that have soul and understanding. These are quotes from participants in a study by Leo Russell and Duncan Moss of the University of Plymouth in the UK. The study used interviews with subjects who were diagnosed with bipolar disorder to evaluate how these individuals felt about manic episodes and their similarities and differences than happiness. The subjects understood from personal experience what happiness is and what it means to them. This type of research is invaluable in the study of happiness because traditional experimental models rarely capture the patient's experiences in their own words. However, in the psychological community, there are other ways of measuring happiness, and one of those is by measuring affect. A person's affect is the expression of emotion or feelings displayed to others through facial expressions, hand gestures, voice tone, and other emotional signs such as laughter or tears. Individual affect fluctuates according to emotional state. In an experiment performed by students and professionals at the Western Psychiatric Institute and Clinic of the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, positive affect was measured on people diagnosed with depression. A control group of 34 neurotypical participants was selected, and 71 unmedicated individuals with a depression diagnosis were asked to write out a script of a positive memory, as well as pick a selection of music that was calming to them. They were then put into a magnetic resonance imaging, or an MRI, scanner, and as the musical selection was played, they were instructed to read the positive memory script they had written. Throughout the 7-minute process, the participants were rating their affect with a mouse. The results of the study showed that patients with depression were able to achieve the same levels as the control, making way for the idea that those with a mental illness can feel happiness, just like their neurotypical counterparts. Many individuals with mental illness choose not to let their struggle define them, but embrace the strength that can come from it. So their path towards happiness may look a lot different than others, but that doesn't mean the destination cannot be reached. Of course, any research done with so few sources in such short amount of time cannot provide definitive proof. However, with my own personal experiences and those of family and friends, I can conclude that it is possible to be diagnosed with a mental illness and to be happy. Questions, anybody? Yep.
Did you take all the photographs?
Yeah, I did.
They're beautiful.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
Were you surprised with your findings?
I actually, yeah, I kind of was. I kind of went into it definitely like hoping that, happiness is possible for those with mental illness, but really not as much surprised. It was very interesting, especially the study with the patients diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It was just interesting hearing their stories in their own words. They were just, written out with the ums and likes. And, you know what I mean? It's something you don't really see very often. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to take a closer look at this topic?
Definitely like my own personal experience with mental illness, and also I'm a psych major, and it's something that's just really interesting to me. And of course, for this class, happiness is our class theme, so kind of had to pick something to go with happiness, and it's just super interesting to me. So, yeah. Anybody else?